Good evening and welcome to Nox Mente. Tonight's guest is Paranormal Investigator MJ Dixon. MJ is the founder and lead investigator of Sage Paranormal, based in West Midlands, UK. Her experiences with the paranormal began at a young age, and she soon realized that she had inherited the psychic abilities of her mother. However, this was paired with her father, whose military background was a penchant for logic, and so MJ found that this unusual combination of psychic and cynic lent itself perfectly to becoming a successful paranormal investigator. Those skills soon came in handy when she suspected she was living in a haunted house and wanted answers. MJ, welcome to the show.
Welcome on, MJ.
It's good to be here.
I should say it's my morning. Good evening, Mr. Jerry.
Yeah. Good evening. You woman of mystery, you.
Yes, it is. So I'm super thrilled about this, and we definitely want more paranormal people on Nox Mente, just so the world knows.
I definitely know a few people that you would love to interview, so I'll be spreading the word.
Very much looking forward to that. Where are you in the UK now? For some reason, I thought you were even though your accent, for some reason, I thought someone told me you were in Australia.
So everybody thinks I'm Australian. Excuse me. I'm actually South African, and I'm living in the UK. I've been here for about 10 years now. But because of the South African accent and the English twang, I sound Australian. I don't know.
It's like the mashup.
Yeah.
And I want you to go ahead and tell people about the fact that sometimes you get a male spirit or entity answering for you. I'm highly intrigued, and I'm hoping it happens.
Yes. So every time I do any form of podcast, radio show, Skype meetings, anything at all, and whether it's on any platform like Zoom, Skype, WhatsApp, Facebook, whatever the case may be, I sometimes do have a male voice that will answer questions sort of on my behalf, or you would hear a male voice laughing in the background or that sort of thing. So I kind of have to pre-warn everybody about this guy. The office that I'm sitting in, it's filled with haunted objects from cases that I've worked over the years. And I think this is actually somebody who is attached to one of the objects in my house. But I don't know, he seems pretty harmless most of the time. So
I love it.
Anyone listening, if you hear a male voice, it's not just me that sounds like Marilyn Manson every now and again. It is actually somebody else that answers.
Oh man, this is going to be awesome. Is it what time is it where you are now?
It's about 9 o'clock.
In the evening?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So you're definitely evening. Well, what a better time when the sun's down for the voices to come out.
Oh yeah. Y'all love it. Not unusual in our house.
Does he have a name?
No, but I kind of have an idea of which item he would be attached to. And it's a deck of Aleister Crowley tarot cards.
Oh, intriguing.
Yeah, so it's kind of since I brought those cards into my life. They were given to me as a birthday present, by the way. Here's these fantastically haunted tarot cards. You have them. Happy birthday! So it's since I've got this deck of cards in the house that we've had this male entity around, but I haven't got a name for him yet. Because he's here with the Aleister Crowley cards, I just call him Aleister.
Yeah, that would be probably what I would do.
I'm hoping it's not actually Aleister Crowley.
Why?
You could be haunted by worse people, I guess. If it is, I have several questions. So he's butt down.
That
You know,
he needs to speak up louder.
yeah.
I remember reading or heard an interview with a woman who was in contact. I thought it was Edgar Allan Poe's ghost. Like
Oh wow.
he hung out with her all the time and like criticized her. He was like a nag ghost.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Well, and another reason that I call him Alistair is I've actually taken these cards and used them as a trigger object in Warwick Castle. Warwick Castle is where Alistair Cowley used to perform seances with
Yes.
Anne the Fourth Countess of Warwick, Daisy the Countess of Warwick. So there's quite a lot of energy attached to these cards, and obviously, if it is anything to do with him, that would be a great trigger. So I've actually used them as a trigger object, and when we asked if Alistair Crowley was around, we got a Class A EVP saying yes, which was really interesting. And we had figures mapping in on the SLS camera, waving at the camera when we asked them to. So it was, there's there's a lot of ties to Alistair in these cards. So it'd be really cool if it wasn't.
Those SLS camps are so awesome.
Yeah, I really like them. I do believe that they have glitches.
I just found my deck.
Nice. I do believe that cameras can have glitches and things, but when you say, could you stand in front of the camera and raise your right hand and wave, and it does, well.
And then they move.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I talked to, I forget who it was. It was someone at the conference who had one there. Did you see them? At the CryptidCon.
Oh, at CryptidCon?
Yeah.
I didn't see it, no.
I can't remember his name. He was with, I know who it was with, Robert something. Murphy? It wasn't.
Oh, Robert Murch?
Not Murch, the other Robert. Oh. He's like a fairy hunter.
Oh.
He had a hat on.
You know what? I didn't get to because I think his talk was the same time as mine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so his booth, he was there with another paranormal group, and they had an SLS camera set up in the outside of the vendor area.
Oh, I didn't know that. I completely missed that.
You did.
To be fair, I was so jet lagged by the time I did CryptidCon. I think I did 8 states in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So, it got extended, didn't it?
Sorry?
It got extended. I thought.
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was over there for several weeks, just one investigation after the other, one event after the other. I was pretty dead by that time.
They say there's an old tradition, a folkish tradition, that all your magical tools, the ones that are your magical tools should come to you. That purchasing one, and I realize that we all purchase stuff, but that purchasing one is the old lineage was they were given somehow as gifts.
Absolutely.
Or found.
Every single one of my, because I read tarot, and every single one of my tarot decks has been gifted to me. I've never bought one for myself.
You're quite fortunate. I have my first one from my momo, and then another very special one. You're quite lucky. It's spectacular. I did get all my many other things have come to me, so I'm not begrudging it at all. But I love cards. How wonderful are cards?
Just gonna throw this out there. Anyone listening that wants to gift me any new paranormal equipment, I mean,
bring it on.
It is Christmas around the corner thing.
So, MJ, tell us a little bit about the world you grew up in, like the early stuff you can remember that sticks out, and that's it, like surface level to depth stuff. So, like pop culture, cartoons you may have liked. Did you have a relationship with nature? All that.
Okay. So I grew up. Fortunately, my mom's side of the family, I'm actually 5th generation psychic medium. So when it comes to how my mom raised me, I was very lucky because everything was very open, I was very involved with anything to do with crafts and the craft. And my dad's side, it was very military. so, logical and straightforward. So dad's side, I grew up doing judo and karate, and I did kickboxing and things 5.5 years. But then on my mom's side, everything was very airy fairy and creative and spiritual, and very much so grew up in and around nature constantly. I mean, I grew up in South Africa, so I was really an outdoors child. We had a really nice farm up in the in the valley of the mountains, the Waterberg region. Um, so I spent a lot of my time camping next to the river and just on my own. When I say outdoorsy, I was permanently out in the woods exploring, and I had a real relationship with nature. Um, so yeah, when it comes to TV shows and things, I think I've always been a bit of a weird child. I very, very clearly remember scarring pretty much all the kids in my neighborhood for my 11th birthday because we decided to have a kids' birthday party, sleepover party. And I had all the kids in the neighborhood and decided that we were going to have a classic horror movie night or weekend, shall I say. So ended up watching things like The Thing, It, The Exorcist. I mean, I'm talking about all those way back, not the remakes. And yeah, I've, I've always been a weird child.
You would have been my friend. Those were.
This is not Rune Soup, okay?
What kind of music did you like back then, early on?
Oh my God. Okay, so I grew up with older brothers who were all metalhead. So instead of singing nursery rhymes when I was 3 years old, I knew pretty much all the lyrics to Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses or Metallica.
Oh my God, yes. That is shout out to Darcy out in our chat. We have a good friend of our show that loves all that too. I, of course, do as well.
And she's in chat.
Oh, hello. Hello, people in chat.
Hi, people in the chat room. Yeah, so I grew up with, rock and metal, and I'm to this day, I'm a metalhead. I love my classic rock. So pretty much if my husband could describe me, and actually several other people could describe me in very few words, it would be Dean Winchester from Supernatural, just the female version.
I love Dean.
So this is classic rock. I love classic cars. I love pie.
Have you ever been on Where Did the Road Go? Or met Soraya?
No.
I need to get you two together.
Okay.
He's a metalhead paranormal dude.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Soraya's got a great show. We've had him on, and he's wonderful. He's actually he's a great interviewer.
Okay. Oh, I'd love to.
Yeah, he's great. What also so early MJ, what do you have any recall of dreams from your early period?
Absolutely. No, I would have very vivid dreams as a child, and whether these were actually past life memory, I couldn't tell you. But for instance, I said I was a bit of a weird kid. One of the things that sticks out quite a bit was when I was about 9 or 10 years old. My father gave me this old wooden cigar box, and I was a crafty kid. I used to collect stuff and make all sorts of things. And he was like, well, I didn't want to throw this wooden box away. I thought you could make something out of it. So about a month went by. And my mom was like, what did you make out of that box? And I was like, well, I can't show it to you. I can't tell you. It's my magic box. And she was like, oh, magic, like card trick things. And I was like, oh, no, don't be silly, like real magic. And my mom was a bit like, okay, this is odd. And I remember getting home from school, and my mom had gone to my room, and she'd found this cigar box, and she was sat there with this thing on her lap when I walked in, and she looked so shocked. And I remember feeling like, how dare you invade my privacy like that? You just went into my room? Like, how dare you? I was 9. She had every right to do that. As a worried parent of a weird child. So, I ended up having to explain why I made this box. And basically what I had done is I had drawn a pentagram in it. I had candles for each element, I had a white candle to represent what I called Akasha, and all sorts of things in this little. And it was practically a mini Wiccan altar that I'd set up in this box. And I would take it down to the end of the garden and sit underneath the willow tree because it was just so stunning, this weeping willow almost touching the ground. It was just beautiful in there. And I would burn a bunch of herbs and things and say all sorts of incantations and that. This is a 9-year-old kid. Like, no 9-year-old child should know how to do any of that. I'd never learned that anywhere. It just came very naturally. I mean, the only place that I used to have these really weird dreams, it was very vivid dreams of me doing this sort of thing. But in the dreams, I was an older woman. I was in my 30s. So, it was only years later, once I started getting into all things paranormal, that I realized when my mom asked me, what is the white candle for? And I said to her, well, it's Akasha. She was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, well, don't be silly. Like, it's Akasha. It's everything. Like, Mom, how can you not know this? And she brushed it off, crazy child. And it was later on in life that I was reading a book, and it was all about the Akashic records and the penny dropped. And I was like, oh my God. Oh my God, the Akashic records, Akasha. Oh my God, how would a 9-year-old kid know that that's what it was called? How would you have any knowledge of that at 9 years old? So I think those were some of the dreams that I had that really heavily influenced me getting into all things spiritual and paranormal and out there, because I wanted to know where that all came from. I wanted to know how I knew that stuff, where, those dreams were coming from. But yeah, that's probably one of my earliest memories of dreams being a bit weird.
That's fantastic, and it illustrates something. I know it's controversial in kind of the larger community at large, but there's always been this talk about you're born to it, right?
Absolutely.
And I feel that way. I think, of course, anyone can get into it and find their way through. However, there are just people that have been on the path for whatever amount of time that it predates this life.
Absolutely. It's really strange to me because, throughout my entire childhood, I had these really vivid dreams of me being in my 30s, being drowned with witchcraft, knowing how to do certain spells and incantations, and knowing all sorts of things. I mean, oh my gosh, so many different things about the craft. And knowing for myself that I never learned this anywhere. Like, I hadn't read books about it or anything like that when I was that young. It just kind of, it's always been there. It's been there before this life. It is like it's carried on through. And I do feel that those are more past life memories than just dreams. I think there is something more to it. And, you do meet people that are in this field, and people go, oh my God, I'm so into the paranormal. Woohoo, look at me, I'm a paranormal investigator. And then you see them 2 years down the line. They're like, yeah, I'm done with that.
Yeah, and see that there's lots of that where people just kind of willy-nilly come in and out.
Exactly. And I'm like, how just done with that? I can't just be done with that. This is the core of my being.
Yes.
Who I am. I don't know any different. So,
it's sensational, MJ, that you name that Akasha, and not having been front loaded, being so young, and
exactly.
really the Akashic record stuff didn't really take off, even though it's been there, like the term has been there for a long, throughout our lives, of course, and before, but it didn't really get super popular until 10 years ago?
Yeah, but this is exactly what I mean. It was only about, gosh, maybe like 3 years ago that I was reading The Happy Medium by Kim Russo. And
Yes.
and in the book, she starts talking about the Akashic records, and she actually writes the Akashic records, also known as Akasha. And I literally froze. I read the sentence, and I was sitting curled up on the sofa. It was in the middle of winter. She sent me, a friend of mine had sent me the book for Christmas. and I'd been sat curled up on the sofa reading. And when I read that sentence, I instantly burst into tears. And I called my mom and I went, "Oh my God, you're not going to believe this. Like, I found out what Akasha is after all of these years." And when I told her, she was like, "You're kidding. There's no way. Like, how would you know that?"
That's what I'm saying. These validations are amazing in
Mhm.
life, where we know they're like checkpoints in time almost, where we know we are on track. So, okay, so continuing on with staying back in your early life,
Mhm.
where did you have so understanding a little bit about where you were and what was going on, your relationship with nature, did you have any fears at that time as a kid?
My only fear, well, as a child, I was really scared of the dark. Um, I think that stems from being sensitive and not knowing how to develop it properly at such a young age. Like, I wasn't speaking about it all that much back then. So I would feel the presence or, somebody else in the room. Um, and I'd be able to pick up on this presence and tell you if it was male or female or that sort of thing. And because I didn't know who it was or what was going on, the dark terrified me. I always had to have the lights on for some reason. But my biggest fear, and it still is water. Keep drowning. I hate pee. I just yeah, that's still my biggest fear. I hate
Okay,
water.
so I want to go into that. I have that as well. The water's a very very big deal. And on this show, we do talk about what I ask questions about deep water and all this. I would like to suss out a little bit why you think you have a fear of the water. What do you think it stems from?
Partially the past life dreams that I've had that are so vivid of me drowning or being drowned for witchcraft.
Yes.
That has definitely carried through into this life. Um, Another reason was because my older brother decided he was going to teach me how to swim,
Oh
which he did
no.
so well. I was about 2 years old and ended up sinking to the bottom of the swimming pool.
Oh my.
So that definitely added to it.
Do you remember when you sank to the bottom of the swimming pool? Do you have a memory of sitting there at the bottom?
I actually do, and I remember feeling really calm, and I remember thinking about the bubbles and how pretty they looked. I know it's
Mm-hmm.
really odd, but that was pretty much the only thing that I remember of it. That is literally one of the only pieces of that I remember very vividly. And I remember my dad yanking me out of the but other than that, no, I don't really remember much.
Well, but I asked that because it's kind of the bottom of the pool. It's it's significant in a lot of different ways, but I was just curious. I have that as well, and then some people with some the woo. This is some woo, but there's a connection to say the basis stuff with that too. So it just is curious.
I bet she
Okay.
doesn't know what that is.
I
Yeah,
don't.
no, that's all right, and I'm not going to go into it. It can be, we can talk about that later, but it's significant, is all I want to say. As a
So
crossover.
I have when it comes to water and dreams, um, water is a very big part of my dreams. Now, for me, it always has and probably always will be. Anytime I dream of water that is really calm and really crystal clear, and I dream that I'm swimming and I can see literally everything. It's just like miles and miles and miles of crystal clear water. And it could sometimes be like the entire city is submerged and I'm swimming, looking down at this beautiful city underneath me in the water. But as
Ooh.
long as it is clear and I feel independent, I know that all things in work life, home life, emotionally, mentally, everything feels balanced.
It's like
But
looking through a blue glass window, right?
yeah,
Yep. I've
exactly.
had the
Yeah.
exact same dreams.
So, and then I feel like, okay, I'm good. I'm on the right path. Everything feels fine. Everything feels really stable. But the moment I have a dream of, say, standing on the beach looking at an looking at the ocean and it's these huge waves and it's really churned out water and it's really dark and brown and it just looks scary, then I know there's trouble coming. It's kind of my foreboding. Anytime I have any trouble coming in my life at all, whether it's a family member passing, whether it's, something to do with a job, whether it's a project that's going to fall through, or whatever the case may be, financially, emotionally, health-wise, anytime I have that dream, I know that there's that trouble coming. But depending on certain details of it, it'll tell me what part of life it's about. So I know if it's a family member or to do with a family member, I'll see them stood in the middle of the water, like it's all around them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always played a very big part of my life and influenced how I do things as well.
When the water, so this kind of brings us forward a little bit, but I want to go there while we're here.
Mm-hmm.
So in the murky water, the stormy water, are there ever fantastical beasts involved?
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes, very rarely.
What do you have any examples or visuals for us? Mental visuals?
The only one that stand out is a giant squid that I've seen in the dream that sort of pulling me underneath the water. The other one was more of like a sea serpent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to explain it. Kind of take Loch Ness Monster and cross it with a dragon.
Oh, interesting.
Probably the best way to describe it.
And when these pop up, what's generally the feeling, and how do you get out of it? How do you deal with this when it's happening?
Do you know what? It's been so few and far between that I've actually had dreams that have these creatures or things in them. I do remember being really confused.
Yeah.
I do remember looking at it being like, okay, clearly this is a really whacked out dream. And because usually I've got to the point where when I do have dreams of water, I really assess them. It's weird. I have this way of kind of pulling myself out of my own dream and standing back assessing it while I'm dreaming it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if other people do that.
That's great.
That's almost a lucid experience.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I tend to kind of stand back and assess everything that's going on in my dream. I'm also able to when some people wake up and that's it, it's done, the dream's done. I'm also able to force myself back to sleep and back in that exact dream, exact situation to kind of carry on assessing it.
Mm-hmm. I do that. That's not uncommon.
Oh, good. I'm not that weird.
Yeah, no. Well, not amongst this crowd.
Another thing that I've always done this. People think I'm really crazy. I find it really difficult to communicate with my spirit guides. I've only ever had a couple of guides in my lifetime that have been really clear, where I'm able to hear them really clearly and kind of have full-on conversations with them. Now, most of my guides will only ever tell me things in my dreams. So I read it somewhere, I can't remember what book or whatever I was reading, and I was quite young, obviously very easily influenced. But I read somewhere that you could speak to your guides and ask them to teach you things in your dream. So you would, before you go to bed, speak to them, say, hey, I want to learn how to weave a dream catcher. And you would go to bed and have this really vivid dream of kind of a step-by-step class on how to do this specific task. And you would be able to wake up in the morning and remember it and do it. And I was like, wow, this is the coolest thing ever. So I used to do it all the time, and it really worked for me. The weaving dream catchers was actually the very first thing I tried. I remember waking up the next day and being like, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah. Yes. I often I call it like dream downloads. I've never called it guides, because it doesn't I don't have anyone. It doesn't feel like it's coming from a point. So like
Yeah,
a person or a thing.
it's just like you say, it is kind of a download.
Yeah, definitely. And that's how I learned temple dancing and stuff. I find that, well, are you right-handed or left-handed?
Right hand.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that I love this though. We don't get a lot of people talking about the clarity of that, like you were just talking about. So they'll get inspiration from the dream, but not
Oh,
like
no, I've had
wake up and they've totally learned something
step
completely.
by step instruction, literally
Yes.
step by step. That's crystal clear. Um, I've had that. I've done that my whole life though. I've
Hmm.
always thought that was normal. Until I was speaking to somebody, they're like, "Yeah, that's not not everyone does that." I was like, "Wow, you're missing out." Cool.
What's your astrological sign?
I'm a Virgo.
Oh, Virgo.
Do you know
Mhm.
your rising and moon?
Uh, yes.
Hold that,
Rise.
hold that thought. I just want to thank Pusa Studios for coming in on a Pusa raid, bringing us some new listeners and new subscribers. So thank you very much, guys. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Hey.
Definitely.
Back to you.
I believe my rising is Sagittarius. My moon Scorpio.
Hedge rising moon Scorpio. Also on this kind of early stuff that gives us an idea of your personality. So you have a brother. Was it just you and your brother?
I had one biological brother, 10 years my senior. He sadly passed away a few years ago. But then I had about 7 or 8 adopted brothers and an adopted sister.
Oh,
And I'm
wow.
big. Yes.
That's a
Yeah.
lot. It sounds kind of fantastic to me. Were they all in your age range?
No, I am the baby. By I think the next step for me is about 6 years.
Okay, so there is a big pot.
Yeah, it's
So
pretty
is it like, were you with that separation in age, was there a sense of being an only child at all?
absolutely. So especially when a lot of them are way, way older than me. So when everyone else left, um, everyone kind of moved out the house as soon as they could. And they went exploring and traveled all over the country and all sorts of things. Um, and it really felt, I think, not only did my mum feel empty nest syndrome, but it really made me feel like an only child. I was so close to my biological brother that when he left, he moved across the country. We lived in the north of South Africa. He moved down to Cape Town. And it got to the point where, and I must have been about 7 years old when he moved out. 7 or 8. Yeah, he was 18. So I was 8 years old.
How
And
old were you when he passed?
he passed 3 years ago.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. He's
Recent.
still around.
Yeah. Oh,
He's still,
yeah. Yeah.
he's still
We share this perspective for sure.
yeah.
They don't die. We don't die.
Nope. But yeah, so I remember being that distraught when my brother moved across the country that I ended up getting really, really, really sick, really ill. And my mom took me to every pediatrician and specialist and, anyone that she thought may be able to help. And no one could find anything wrong with me until I remember her taking me to this doctor kind of just down the street from our house. And he was like, well, has one of her siblings passed? And my mom was like, no. I mean, he's moved home. He left home, but he's still alive. And the doctor turned around and said, she's mourning. She's
Yes.
mourning her brother as though he's passed, which was, a big thing when he actually did pass away. My very first thought was, I had to hear my brother's voice every day as a child growing up so that I could function because I was that close to him.
Yeah.
And when he passed, I put the phone down when I got the phone call, and I was like, wow, now what?
Yeah.
Now what happens now? There is
Do
no
you,
such thing.
let's, if we can we talk about your brother for a minute?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when he left and you were about 7, do you remember any dreams during that specific time?
I remember dreaming about him whenever something was wrong with him. Like if
Mm-hmm.
something wasn't going well at work or, got himself into a bad situation, or, you know, just being a drunken teenage boy whenever he
Yeah.
ended up in a fight or anything like that, you know, and he tried to hide it from my parents. I remember waking up being really frantically worried about him, knowing that something was wrong. That's about the only time that I remember dreaming about him. I dream about him quite often now, actually.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to jump to next. So I just wanted to get a little context for that. So when, and this usually I ask these questions later because I like to give people a sense of who a person is by all these early questions. So when he passed 3 years ago, did you see it beforehand? Were you aware it was going to happen? I'm not sure how he passed, and I'm talking in dreams now. And then after, what's your relationship with him now?
So he was one of the very few people in our family that I didn't have a dream about. I didn't have any forewarning, and usually I do. You know, when my dad passed, both my in-laws, I basically I see somebody. It's really weird, but I usually see this tall, dark figure wearing a top hat. He's got a long cloak on. He kind it is. This is going to be very bizarre. He's a Russian ringmaster. Don't know why he shows up. Anyway, his name is Zeus. And he usually shows up like a week before. I'll see him standing in the house somewhere, and then I'll kind of get a sense of who it is going to pass. And I've had that happen my entire life. But with my brother, I didn't. There was absolutely no warning. The moment I got the phone call to tell me, he had a heart attack, by the way. He was 39 years old.
Oh my goodness. That's too
Yeah.
young and a heart attack. Ugh.
Yeah. Didn't drink. Like he barely drank. He was really big into his fitness. He had been training a lot, so I don't know if that just put extra strain on his heart. But he was in really good health and didn't smoke. Yeah, so it was very kind of out of the blue. And obviously, I mean, 39 years old, you know, he played golf that morning, got home, sat down on the sofa, and had a heart attack. Gone. But the moment that I got the phone call to tell me, because he lived in South Africa, and obviously being over here in England, they phoned me straight away. And I remember I was busy editing a documentary, and so I had the headphones and everything on, sat in front of the laptop, busy editing, and I was sitting in my bedroom, and I had my back towards the bedroom door, and I remember the entire room filling up. It was like I was stood in the middle of a crowded room, and everybody was going like, oh my God, like, here it comes. It's going to happen now. It's going to happen now. And I still remember taking the headphones off and looking around the room and being like, wow, this room feels weird. It's so busy. And I put the headphones back on and I looked down at my phone, and the phone rang, and I knew it. I just knew. Before I even answered the phone, I knew. But I never had any dreams about that beforehand at all. Afterwards, now he visits me quite often. And it's funny. I always said, so I used to have really jet black, dead straight hair down to my waist. And so I looked like Morticia Adams.
A look I love and have worked myself.
So, I never intentionally tried to. It's just kind of how I ended up looking. So
yeah,
my brother,
I had to dye my hair, sadly.
my family's Greek, so I had no problem there.
Yeah.
But my brother used to call me Morticia. It was his nickname for me, my family nickname.
My brother married a Greek woman.
Sorry?
My brother married a Greek woman, went through the whole Greek Orthodox thing, and I had never met her. The first time I met her, he was starting to learn Greek, and he told me to say to her, Megalo Puzo. Yeah. So, yay me.
That must be this. For those of us that don't know Greek, what is that?
It loosely translates to "I have a big dick."
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Very loosely, yeah. So my brother, when he passed, I said to him, "Look, if you're gonna come through and you're gonna speak to me, then you need to start singing the Addams Family theme tune."
Oh yes.
And so I know it's you. So that's kind of like his calling. Like I'll be walking around the house and I'll feel the presence of somebody in the living room with me and hear the da 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 da, and I'm like, "Oh, hey."
I
So,
love that cue.
yeah, it's kind of his little thing. It was always out there. He used to walk around behind me doing it all the time when I was young. Walk around the house teasing me, singing the song. But I've done investigations where I've realized that he walked into the room while I'm doing a paranormal investigation, and I've asked the question and I've said, "If there's somebody here that's a part of my family, can you give me my family name?" And everybody always goes, "Oh yeah, Dickson." And we'll listen back to the EVPs, and a couple of times we've had an EVP come through in my brother's voice saying Adams.
Oh, that's so great.
He'll say we're part of the Adams family.
Oh, that's so great. So when you first started dreaming of him after his passing, from here to there, what were the experiences? Were they emotional? Were you able to hold on to the connection?
They were quite fleeting, to be honest. I mean, he comes through a lot more psychically, because I'm so cognizant, so I receive information as though it's my own memories, and I'm clairaudient as well, so I can hear his voice. So he tends to come through more that way. A person that, and I mean, obviously, the few times that he has come through very clearly in a dream has been extremely emotional. It's like he never left. It was really real, like he was still around. One of them was quite vivid, of the two of us sitting on a bench in my parents' garden, just chatting. And when I woke up, I definitely felt like he was, for a very brief moment, he was back. It was that real.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Uh,
It's sometimes, because you are well honed with this Russian ringmaster image of whatever death is that's cueing you in, and that you didn't have it with your brother. What was his first name?
Spiros. Greek.
So you didn't have it with Spiros, and so I was a little bit expecting to hear that it was, so in my head I'm thinking, because of the deep emotionality and connection with him.
But that's exactly it. I think it was, and like I say, the moment I got the news, it was really weird. It was like everybody on the other side, all of my family died, whoever the hell my invisible A-team are on the other side that's helping me through this life. It was kind of like they all stopped and went, "Oh, crap."
Yeah,
like,
yes.
Oh, there was that moment, like they're so close. It's so emotional. We had such an amazing bond that I kind of feel that's why I didn't get the pre-warning.
Yes.
All right.
I didn't get that warning. I didn't get.
Sure.
If I had,
So,
if I had time to even
right
process
now,
what was happening beforehand.
Has a whole bunch of projects in flight, and we're struggling to get any specific thing done because we have a lot going on. It's also the end of the year, so people have a lot of PTO, there's holidays.
The important bit. So, hey Jerry,
I'm back.
are you good?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay,
Cool. So, as an organization, we have been doing fantastic at meeting bug SLO. Like, everyone's acknowledging that we're doing really great job of keeping those under wraps. However, we're seeing a really clear opportunity to kind of relax on those just for a few weeks, not as a new policy, not the way we're doing things moving forward, but as an exception, and saying, let's take our foot off the gas on the bugs. Let's accept in general that some more of these are going to go out of SLO than we would.
Yeah. So
and instead focus on driving to the finish line on the ongoing projects we have right now. So that means we just want to be more discerning and strategic.
Honestly, I think they influenced it.
Of course they do.
Yeah, but in this particular dream, I had walked into this room, and there was an exorcism taking place. And this woman was late teens, early 20s, long dark hair, wearing a really ragged hospital gown. And I walk in this room, and this priest, and it's not a priest, it's a Jewish rabbi. This rabbi's doing these prayers, and he turns around and looks at me and screams at me. And I didn't understand the language. And he keeps like shouting at me over and over and over, repeating these words, like screaming it at me. And in the meantime, this woman was walking backwards up a wall, like falling backwards up a wall that looked like the walls were melting. It was really, really, really bizarre. But I actually woke up with something ripping off my bedroom wall that night at that part of the dream. I woke up. I had a big sort of vocal cord thing stuck on the wall, and I woke up to that ripping at, like, there were drawing pins and everything holding it in. It ripped out of the wall and crashed to the floor. I woke up, and that was round about the time that my father-in-law had passed away. So I had a really bizarre dream. This thing rips off the wall, wakes me up, and we get the news early hours of the morning. But it was such a vivid dream that I actually, when I woke up from that noise, I grabbed a pen and paper and I wrote down what this rabbi was screaming at me. And, oh God, off the top of my head, it was something like Maharat Ikba or something like that. Anyway, I ended up translating it, and it translated to spiritual woman high.
Oh, wow.
Which was really weird because I didn't know the language.
Oh, wow. Ooh, that gave me chills, MJ.
Yeah, so I'm really hoping that's not like weird premonition and that is just a horror movie influence.
So wait,
But
how long ago was that?
um, almost 4 years ago. Yeah.
Did
About
any
3.5
with that kind of almost like warning, did anything soon after that besides the passing of your father-in-law happen that was
Um,
significant?
yes. So, oh God, this is going to get really depressing. Everyone listening, I'm really sorry.
Well, we can go there. It's definitely
All right. Well, so the night I had that dream, we got the news that my father-in-law had passed. 6 months later, my brother passed. 6 months later, my brother's son, my 12-year-old nephew, was diagnosed with lymphoma. Um, at the same time, I was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. At the same time, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. So it's praise, but it was just a bit of a shitstorm.
that's
um,
that's incredible.
it was everything hit all at once. Um, and so it was really strange to me because the house that I was living in at the time, there was a really nasty entity in this house. Um, and he had some form of, I think it was more of an elemental creature with him. Um, and he would often, I'd wake up with this guy standing in our bedroom. Now, I don't mind dead people hanging around in my house. That's fine. That's cool. I'm good with it. I have grown up with spirits around me my entire life. It's fine, but there are boundaries. One of those boundaries is my bedroom is my sanctuary. No one and nothing is allowed in my bedroom. The rest of my house, hell, I have so many different haunted object things. Yes, they are blessed. Yes, they are protected and all of that. But my house is kind of like a halfway house. Um, it's also built on ley lines, so
Mm.
that kind of adds to it. But I've always had this rule that nothing's allowed in my bedroom, my space, especially not while I'm trying to get a decent night's sleep.
Yes, this is a
Yeah.
good policy.
Yeah, Mama needs her beauty sleep, honey.
Absolutely. You cannot pass.
So I ended up waking up with this guy and this entity in the room around that time, quite often. And I remember saying to him, "All right, like, get out. May not be in this. This is my space. End of story." And the one day he just stood there. He looked at me and he went, "We'll make you sick." Um,
Holy crap.
and I was diagnosed with cancer 3 months later.
And
Yeah, I was diagnosed with a tumor the size of a football.
along
Like
with
very-
all this other stuff you're talking about with your mom and the brother.
everything kind of hit at the same time. And at the time, I was working quite a few private cases as well, which some of them were really nasty.
So this warning was completely almost in good faith, like telling you to
Mm,
batten the hatches.
the
Or
yeah,
was it curse-like?
I think
What did it feel like?
the warning, I think the dream that I had saying the spiritual woman hide, that sort of thing. I think that was kind of a batten down the hatches. Oh, it's coming. And then the this guy,
Yes.
this person saying "will make you sick" was very menacing, really threatening.
Yeah,
Um,
that sounds threatening.
yeah, we moved out of there literally. So I was diagnosed not even 3 months later with this really bad tumor. And I'm really lucky to still be here.
Yes. Well, I'm
Very-
glad you are.
so am I.
Did
Um,
it okay, so when all that was going down that led up to your tumor and all this other I mean just this sounds like mayhem. Um
yeah, it was a bit of an intense time.
what do you think it's connected to for so many
I've been
things
working
to
on that.
synchronize up? You get the warning, all this stuff happens that leads up to your own dealing with your mortality, and then that entity coming through.
I think a lot of times people go into the paranormal, and this is why I say this is every fiber of my being. Um, it's not just a little hobby. It's not just a little pastime. It's not like oh, I have an interest. This is my life. This is how I've grown up. It's how I've dealt with things. It's how it is. The paranormal influence every single decision, every tiny detail of my life, everything. Um, and this is why I say that, people that get into it as like, oh, it's a hobby, or it's this, or it's that, which is fine, but don't go around doing private case things, because you don't know what you're taking on. You don't know how bad things get. A lot of people say that if you're dealing with a negative entity, they're not necessarily going to attack you. They're going to go after your family. They're going to go after the things that are closest to you. They're going to influence other things in your life, cause havoc at work and in your relationships, your friendship, your family, your health, I do think that during that time period that I was doing several other private case things, I do think that this particular entity that threatened saying will make you sick could have possibly had something to do with it. Um, I've also realized that there is a bit of a pattern. Any physical mediums that actually feel how spirits pass, that sort of thing as well, which I tend to do as well. I know so many of them, and I've noticed this pattern over the years that they all end up with either cancer or just really random diseases and things at a very, very young age. So I do think it takes its toll.
Yeah, I've always wondered this. I have heard that, I don't know if it was a statistic. I'm not even sure, so I won't ponder in that direction. However, I have heard that this kind of work, deep spiritual work that is taking on others, right? And this includes others outside of this dimension we experience, works heavily on our neurological system and some of the systems of our physical body.
Absolutely.
And so, you hear it over and over with mediums and all this to clean it out, to get it out.
A lot of people, because I go through stages where I will do loads of tarot reading, and I'm happy to read for people, do mediumship and use more mediumship on my investigations than the equipment per se. And I go through stages where it's all spiritual and that's because I feel in good health. And so I want to use these abilities and get more insight and help people and that sort of thing. But it drains you. It wears you down. If you're not careful and if you're not balancing that and upping your energy at the same time, doing things just to kind of uplift yourself, you can make yourself really, really sick. You're constantly giving a part of yourself away, if that makes sense. You're using so much of this energy and giving so much of yourself that it does take a toll on your body. It really does. Tapping into that side isn't as easy as people make it out to be. It does have repercussions as well. And I think that a lot of people go, oh, you're doing readings for like 3 months straight, and then I won't do any reading. I'll refuse to do them for a good 5-6 months. And it's just because I don't feel up to it. I don't physically feel ready for it. There's so much more to it. That's why I don't get mediums that can just kind of like, oh yeah, click, switched on.
I don't know if I recall here, where was your tumor?
So I had ovarian cancer that spread up my spine, my lymphatic system.
Oh my, the lymph system. Oof.
Yeah, not fun.
Are you all good now?
I am. I actually went for my oncology test on Friday, and so I got the all clear. And they have decided to move my tests from every 3 months to every 4 months. So yay me.
Oh, that's wonderful, MJ.
It's great.
Yes. I did it again. Jerry's put this bug in my head about and now I'm saying it all the time.
I know. And then I catch myself, and then I make it 10 times worse. Either or like.
Right. Jerry said that also. It's there we go. See, I said it again. It's funny how you can just, this is a case for front loading someone or giving this power of suggestion. And
Yep.
so I want to talk about, I want to come back to this. We're going to come back to the dead. It's where I like to end, actually.
Okay.
However, let's talk about the dream landscape and how you experience it in general. And so what I'm looking for is architecture, all the sensate stuff, reading, glyphs, all that. What does the dreamscape, how do you encounter it? What does it look like?
Man. Don't even know how to answer that. I don't know. Most of the time, that's really weird. I've never really thought about that. Most of the time, especially if I'm dreaming about, say, for instance, a family member or something, it is always in a very familiar place. It'll always be in like my parents' living room, or it's always somewhere really familiar to me, whether it's a family home or my family's restaurant or the garden of the house that I grew up in as a childhood home. No, I very rarely actually dream that I'm in a place that's unfamiliar. I've never noticed that actually.
Is
Wow.
there oh geez, color?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so vivid. It's as though I'm actually in my parents' living room. Every single detail, every absolute detail, from the fabric of the sofa that I'm sitting on to what's on TV to the sunlight coming through the window and onto my cheek. Every little detail is extremely real.
Okay, and also reading text. Is it clear? Have you been able to read within your
Yes,
dreams?
absolutely. Yeah, very
See,
clearly, actually.
that fascinates me. I find personally, I encounter others that do. Every time I focus in on text, it's like glyphs, or it's I can't come to terms with what I'm seeing.
That's fair.
Or it's not making sense. But I feel that in the end, it's making sense on an or a deeper unconscious level.
The only time, come to think of it, the only time that I ever dream of a place that I would say unfamiliar, that is a place that I don't know where this particular beach is. It's nowhere I remember being, but when I start dreaming of, when I was talking about the water earlier and the crashing waves and murky water and everything, there's a particular beach that I'm standing on, and I don't ever recall being there in my lifetime. So it is just this random beach, but it is always the same beach. If that makes sense.
It does.
I'm just umming again. I've just caught myself.
I know Jerry's got it.
Front loading.
Jerry has planted the bug.
You have.
Well, every time I bring it up, we're bringing it into consciousness, since you've planted that little earworm on us. Yeah. So MJ,
to me, so
that see, I did it right there. So MJ, the beach, does it signify something that may be bigger when you encounter a reoccurrence, and the beach clearly is there something that you can connect that makes it significant?
generally that is my troubles coming. That is my one constant. So if I'm dreaming of this beach, and I remember very clearly when my grandmother passed away, the morning that she passed away, it was about 6 o'clock in the morning in South Africa that I woke up. And she was stood on this beach, but there were rocks in the water, and she was standing on these rocks, and these waves were crashing all around her, and she just stood there smiling at me and then disappeared. And
Wow.
I knew instantly, like everything else in that scene was exactly the same. The only difference was my grandmother was there. So I instantly knew whatever this was, it's to do with my grandmother.
Yes.
There's something
Yes.
surrounding her. This is the only, so everything else in that particular dream is a constant. She was the only thing that was different, or whoever it is that it's about, whether it's turmoil in a relationship or friendship or work relationship or whatever the case may be. Whatever's different, whatever's odd, that's not always there, that's my kind of telltale sign of what's to come.
Something's up there. Is
Yeah.
there a sense of higher lucidity at this beach?
A
Or
little, yeah.
with the recurrent stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you experience higher lucidity, or even moving into what is one of the highest forms, I think, is the out of body stuff?
Astral projection stuff.
Mhm.
Wow. So I've never really, not that I know of, when it comes to like astral projection and that sort of thing, I've never really had an out of body experience to that sense. I think that when it comes to the dreams, I know I am able to pull myself out of it and kind of stand back and watch things a lot clearer. I don't know. I don't. Yeah. Yeah. I don't really know. I don't really know how to explain it, but it's really strange. I pull myself completely out of the situation and I watch the dream from like a third angle. It's really bizarre. Yeah, pretty much.
That's great, and also it's not uncommon. Lucidity has a wide swatch of experiential type of energy to it, and so it's not always first person.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not for me anyway.
So with deja vu, I want to tie in, because you're a paranormal investigator, so I like tying that all into this.
Mhm.
So with deja vu and reoccurrence and stuff, when you're having a deja, I'm assuming you have them. I shouldn't
Mhm.
say that.
Yep.
So when you're
Oh, I
gives
lost you
you
for
a generalized, because I know every experience a little bit different. Am I
Mhm.
back?
Yep.
So when you're having a deja vu and say you're on a case,
Mhm.
what do those what do those signify for you?
So, damn it, I'm umming again. Ah, look what you've done.
That's so scary.
So,
I don't think it's really about filling blank space either. And I think once it's in our head, it's called in neuroscience, you don't say earworm, right?
yeah.
Um.
So
Anyway, so deja vu.
I think that once I've really ever had deja vu on a case, maybe a couple of times. And it was a sense of, I'm doing the exact case that I'm meant to be doing. So the ones that I did have it was more of a sense of me being really worried. Should I have taken this case on? Is this, too much to handle? Have I bitten off more than I can chew? Am I experienced enough to be dealing with this? Can I help these people? These are all the questions that's going through my head. And I went into the case, and it was a very, very, very strong sense of deja vu. And to me, that was kind of my putting my mind at ease that I am doing exactly what I am meant to be doing. I'm in the exact position at the exact time and the exact place that I am meant to be. And I have always taken that, I've always thought that's what deja vu is to me anyway. It's that moment, that slip where you're on the right track. You're doing exactly what you are supposed to be doing at that very moment. So all the decisions that you have made up until that point that put you in that position were what you were supposed to do. Everything that went wrong that you thought was the end of the world and pushed you in maybe a different direction, those things were meant to happen to push you in this direction. You were meant to make these choices and you are where you are supposed to be. So I don't know if it so much as just influencing the cases that I've worked. Like I say, that's only happened a couple of times. But in everyday life, I definitely think that is, I kind of like deja vu. I do get it quite vividly every now and again and think, perfect. Yes, I've made the right choices then. If I'm where I'm supposed to be, that's great. So I do.
Thank Jerry, you're in my head.
I really do. There's certain things that line up just so perfectly, too perfectly. And
Yes.
I always think that, when you're fighting against the universe, when you're fighting against what you're supposed to be doing, when you are being the rebel and you're not listening to your gut instinct, or you're too scared to go down a certain path, so you keep fighting it, you keep pushing it aside, or you keep making other choices that kind of leads you off that path. I think that the world has a way of pushing you straight back on it. And it's those little synchronicities, it's those moments of deja vu, it's the little things that kind of push you back to that. It's every time I think, do you know what? I'm sick and tired of the paranormal. I'm sick and tired. Why do I have to be a weirdo that has to deal with all this crap all the time? Why do I have to shoulder other people's weird cases and help them? And what do I get out of it? I get nothing out of it. Tired all the time. And I have these moments. Everybody has these moments. It's human nature, to go, that's it. I'm tired. Why should I help people all the damn time? Why should I do this? Why should I do that? And I think I'm going to take, and this has actually very recently happened, where I've just had the worst 2 weeks. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. Murphy's Law is in full effect. Mercury's in retrograde. Damn it. There's so many different things that's just going so wrong. And I've thought to myself, why can't anything just go right? Just be easy. And I've been forced to make certain decisions. And today, I've had a fantastic day. Everything has fallen into place. Every single little thing. It couldn't have been more perfect. So,
Yes.
so yeah.
Did MJ
Sorry.
have you in your adult life and really closer to now, do you still get things that would qualify as, say, night terrors or nightmares?
I haven't had, my goodness. I had my first nightmare in a very, very long time, probably about 2 weeks ago. And I'm just trying to think what it was about. I was just trying to dig up some detail. Oh, okay. This is really weird and is due to watching probably far too many cute kitten videos. I had a really bad nightmare that my husband was trying to drown a kitten. It was that was my really bad nightmare.
Oh, that is terrible, though.
It was really horrible. I felt really bad for it.
Yeah, that's terrible. Yeah,
But no, like night terrors and things. I've not had that forever.
Well, I wanted to know that. I always want to know that, of course, is dreams are what I'm interested in. However, it's the fact that you deal with the paranormal makes it more significant because you're going into darkness, really,
Yeah.
and dealing with all that.
So it's really funny. I have a lot of people will say to me, you're constantly in abandoned asylums or dealing with really tough cases and working with priests and all sorts of things. And there's a lot of darkness, but you know what? I've not really come across. I've come across Grandma Joe that's really pissed off because you changed the kitchen and she doesn't like the color of the paint, so she's throwing a tantrum. But I've not come across things that I would say would be demonic or really dark. I mean, I've come across a few nasty things, but I think just as though some people are arrogant and aggressive and just nasty people in this lifetime, I think that once you cross over, you're pretty much the same in the next lifetime. But could you imagine now there's a serial killer and the serial killer gets shot, and then the next life in that side, he's now a serial killer with a sick, twisted, demented mind who can prey on people and you can't stop him. Like, you don't know he's there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I have come across quite a few nasty pieces of work on that side, but yeah, I've not really come across anything too bad. And because of those sort of things, because of dealing with all of that, I have a bit of a ritual when I get into bed. The moment I get into bed, I get myself nice and comfortable, and I not only surround myself in my beautiful white lights, which is funny because the first time when I was developing my mediumship and the first time someone said to me, "You just picture this beautiful ball of white light around you and you're protected," I was like, what? Like, I picture this ball of light around me and bada boom, bada bing, I'm protected. Woohoo! I couldn't grasp that. Like, I couldn't wrap my mind around that. It took a really long time for me to actually believe that worked. And it does. It really does. I think it's more of your intent and pushing
Yes.
that energy. It is just more of your intent and your belief in it. And
Well, intent is, that
yeah,
is all psychic energy.
absolutely, exactly. So, which is why it. And so when I get into bed, my very first thing that I do is get really comfortable and wrap not only myself in a bubble of white light, but I do it around my entire bed as well to kind of protect hubby too.
Yes.
Not that
Kind
he
of.
knows it. That's love, isn't it?
It is, indeed.
Um,
Oh, there we go.
Interesting. But yeah, again, then I do have my invisible 18, as I call them. So it's kind of like, all right, guys, you know what to do. This is my bedtime. Gotta get the beauty sleep.
Is there a distinction for you? So I want to tie this back into the dreamscape. However, I'm wondering what the distinction for you is between all the and forgive me, I don't know all the language between people who've passed that were having human experiences, right? Like, say, people we know or people we can tie to a human experience, like a haunting in a house, and entities that are, people will throw demon on, or other kind of entities out there in the ether.
Oh my goodness, there's so many. So I think in today's life, thanks to Hollywood, oh my goodness, wonderful television shows, everything is hashtag it's a demon. Everything is a demon. Dear God. And it was so funny because I run the Sage Paranormal convention over here in England. And I remember a few teams that had said to me a couple of years ago, like, hey, if you're doing this again, drop us an email, let us know. And so this year I decided to email a whole group, like massive database of people, just to let them know that, have a look at the website, whatever the case may be, unsubscribe if you don't want to do it, whatever the case. And I couldn't stop laughing at the amount of responses and replies that I got from these little paranormal teams saying, oh, we can't make it that weekend of the convention because we're on a case and it's demonic. And I was sitting there looking at these responses, thinking to myself, First of all, Jesus, child, you have no idea. Like, you should not be doing private cases. You clearly do not have enough experience to be dealing with this, and you're far too easily influenced by the paranormal pop culture. Not everything is a demon. Exactly. And not only that, if you've not investigated the case yet, how the hell do you know it's demonic? I think about this for a second.
Yeah, that's a wonderful point to make.
So everybody's they're going in preloaded with all of this. Oh, I think it's demonic because I've been watching too much Ghost Adventures. You know, everything's a demon, so clearly this is a demon. But it was just so funny to sit back and have a look at all of those wonderful emails. Now, when it comes to different entities that I think kind of to blame quite a bit for all things demonic, I think, you're looking at imps and elementals, and there's so many different things out there that we have yet to even discover, even as mediums or investigators, or, hell, the first time I came across an elemental, I remember sitting there thinking, what the hell is that? That's not human. What is it? I mean, fairies and things don't exist, right? So I think there's so many different other creatures, if you want to call it, on the other side that get blamed. Entities, yeah, that get blamed. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Mhm. Sometimes, yes. Yeah, depending. So I definitely do catch myself doing this on a regular basis when I'm doing investigations, especially in some of the locations that we have here. Like, for instance, the church next to my house is built in 1100. And it's a gorgeous church. It is. Yeah. So my house, the guild hall right next to me, and the church next to that are on the ley line crossroads. And there's a 650-year-old hotel across the road that's on the opposite side.
I love England and Europe for the age of things.
It's amazing. It
Yeah.
really is. That's exactly why I'm here. But I find myself, when I'm in buildings that old, that I tend to, if I'm walking up a staircase or something, I tend to put my hand up on the stone wall and that sort of thing, because it does, when it comes to psychometry and that, I do tend to pick up quite a bit. So it does help.
Awesome. I just found out I was muted that whole time since I got back. The question I'd asked her. Yeah, sorry everyone.
Jerry asked some great questions.
The show is crazy. I had asked her if her claircognizance ever manifested as psychometry. And then I asked another question which diverted that complete question about the ley lines.
MJ, you have brought the spirits with you on the show today.
Sorry.
It truly has been.
No, my head is elsewhere. This is too early for me to be in a Nox Mente mood, because it's like this is part of my work day, and work's still talking to me, and you know how it is. Well, you don't know how it is. But it's my fault. It's no one else's.
Well, not necessarily, Jerry. We've had the elves all around us, or whatever you want to call them. So, and it's
demons.
I'm applying synchronicity here because this is the stuff that MJ deals with.
Yep.
And she pre-warned us. So I think it's par for the course and fantastic.
I'll tell you one thing. I know I muted my microphone twice, and it came unmuted, and it's a physical button. So that is pretty interesting. When at one point during the show, I was listening to the meeting, and it was actually going out in the broadcast.
Really?
That was awesome. So then I figured that out. I muted my microphone. It came unmuted, and then people could hear the meeting again. Anyway,
oh, wow. Yeah, this has been unusual. This has been the most unusual Nox Mente show to date, I must say.
I'm
for
sorry.
those things. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. And
tend
there
to
I
work
owned it
weird.
again.
I have a question from someone in the audience. Asked if how can we protect ourselves from negative entities? What's the best practices there?
Okay, so this doesn't even go down to whatever religion you are. So one of the big things when you're talking about negative entities, one of the big things that I always asked when I was learning all of this was if something is demonic, negative, or whatever the case may be, and I'm not Christian, then what? Do you know what I mean? So if Christianity is not my belief and I can't go, hey, I want God to protect me or Jesus Christ or, the archangels, whatever the case may be, then how do I protect myself? So your protection comes down to whatever it is you believe in. It doesn't have to be any specific religion. It doesn't have to be, that there's only work with angels or whatever the case may be. It has to come down to this. If you believe in something good, that is your basis. That is where you stem your protection and your everything around, right? So one of the biggest things that I would suggest is learning how to ground and protect yourself. Grounding is really, really easy. It could take as little as 2 minutes. It could take you 10 minutes. You could sit on the side of your bed or on a comfortable chair, or you could do it standing up. Have your feet shoulder width apart. It's best to not have any shoes on, whether you're indoors or outdoors, preferably, and get your feet in the soil or on the grass. Probably the better place to do it. But if it's cold and raining or snowing, you don't want to be sticking your toes in the mud and freezing. So just try it at home, feet shoulder width apart, take nice deep breaths, and the best visualization that I use is picturing roots growing out the bottom of my feet, the soles of my feet into the ground, kind of planting me firmly in the ground. And any negative energy, I will see that as black sludge going through my whole body down into the roots and releasing it back into the ground to get rid of it. That is a really good visualization to help ground yourself, first of all. And then protecting yourself again is just picturing a really bright white light surrounding yourself. It really does work. The whole point of it is your energy, your intent. The way I can explain it is, so when you walk into a room when people have had an argument, and you can cut that tension with a knife. You can feel it in the air. And you don't have to be psychic or anything to be able to pick up on that. You can feel that just, oh boy, I need to get out of here.
Yes,
It's
for
like
sure.
going home for Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, we got that coming up. So you'll all know exactly what I'm talking about in less than a week. So that you're picking up on energy. Whether you are psychic or not, you are picking up on that energy. You can feel it in the air. So imagine that you are pushing out an energy that your thought is, I'm going to protect myself. This is my space. This little bubble that I'm putting over myself, this bubble is my space. You cannot come near it. You cannot break through it. It is me, mine. That is it. That is your intent. That is what you're putting out. So what you're just pushing out by doing that is exactly the same kind of thing that you're feeling when you walk into a room and people have had an argument. You walking into their space, feeling that emotion and that tension and that energy. So if you're pushing out a protective layer, people that are going to try and get through that layer are going to feel it. They're going to walk up to you and be like, oh, no, no, no. All right, backing away slowly. It's the exact same thing. So give it a try. That is the easiest way to ground and protect yourself. Again, you can have amulets. I mean, if you're a Christian, you want to wear a cross, that's great. If you want to wear blessed amulets, if you want to use crystals, black tourmaline is great for protection. So is hematite.
I love black tourmaline. And also Whitby Jet.
I would say if you're going to work with deities, to think of them as batteries that are charged by the believers, and if you're a believer in that, you're feeding into this. It's like a co-op, you know. You can take energy out of it too, and that would that would be in the form of extra power to whatever you're trying to.
Absolutely.
Super batteries.
I have a question concerned around this about when you're in investigations, electrical stuff affects it. Is this correct? Like, where the wires come into the house and all this?
Yes. Okay. So let's start with an EMF field is caused when you have an electric current running through a conductor. It'll create a field of energy around it, which is your EMF field, electromagnetic field, right? Now, it is also said that spirits are made up of EMF energy. So you have to be really careful on an investigation, because if you're going into an investigation thinking that every single tiny little thing that sets off K2 meter is a ghost, you're very wrong. Those devices were actually created not to find ghosts, but to find wiring in walls, faulty wiring. To find electrical outlets that maybe have too many plugs or things plugged into one extension cord, that kind of thing. It all gives off EMF energy, right? Now, here's the thing. EMF energy has a very strange reaction to the human body. Well, the human body reacts really strangely to EMF, shall I say. So EMF energy can make you feel very dizzy. It can make you feel nauseous. It can make the hair on your neck stand up, giving you goosebumps. It can make you feel paranoid. It can give you headaches. And these are all natural side effects of what the human body experiences when you're in an EMF field. So when you're on an investigation, you need to be really careful, because yes, high EMF fields of naturally caused high EMF fields will set off all of your equipment. The point you're trying to do, which is why you do baseline readings, is when you're in an investigation, you walk through the house or the building or whatever the case is, and you'll go through it with the Mel meter or a K2 meter or any other trimeter or anything else that measures the electromagnetic field. You will pinpoint the areas that have high EMF fields, like, for instance, a lot of wiring, certain lights and things give off a lot of EMF. So you would note all of those areas so that you're aware of them. If you are in a room that has no EMF field, it's baselining on 0.0 to 0.5 milligauss. That's kind of your normal range. So if you have a baseline of that, and you ask a spirit to step forward and communicate with you using that device by touching it and lighting it up, and it does so on command, that is generally something to look at. It's not 100% that is paranormal, but if it is happening on command, on cue, every single time, that is definitely interesting.
So with that in mind, how do you think the new 5G grid that's rolling out all over in the Western world, at least, is going to affect those kinds of things? And so not just investigations, but people's experience with could this be a portal? Are we opening up a larger access to those realms?
I have not even thought of it, to be honest.
With 5G?
Yeah.
Like versus CERN?
I have not thought about it at all. I answer you.
As you know, are you familiar with the 5G rollout?
No, not at all.
So no, that's all right. It's just about faster internet, and they're making the towers closer because
it's a form of, okay, so because it's such a high.
But obviously, I know about 4G and everything that they rolled out not so long ago. Absolutely, but
right.
didn't even know 5G was a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing, and it's
more intense.
They're high density packets, which means they don't go as far when it's broadcast, so they have to put repeaters up and broadcast at a stronger energy levels, and the wavelength gets up into the gigahertz range. It's not, I think it was terahertz, I'm not sure, but it's up in like higher brain function organ kind of frequency ranges. You know,
oh wow!
Like that. And they're microwaves. They can be under, I think it was a centimeter or a millimeter, up to that small. So,
and in terms of this, especially with what you do, and also with this question of, so it's locking a tighter electrical grid around us, and so that's more intense. And so I'm wondering how that's going to change this kind of landscape you work with it.
That is really interesting because, you know, as I was speaking about, you know, the basics of EMF energy and that sort of thing, on the other side of things, you know, that's more of a debunking side. On the other side of things, obviously, spirits use energy. Entities will use energy from us, from electrical appliances, from, we all know as a ghost hunter, one of your biggest things that you need is batteries, because if you're in an active location, you can go through so many batteries that just inexplicably drain, but yet at the same time you're able to capture something manifesting. Maybe it's a photograph, maybe it's something on camera or something happening, you know, speaking through any devices, but you generally have a form of activity once you've had these battery drains, or once you've had, you know, your energy drained or something. So I think if you're opening up such a massive, you're locking you in with this electrical grid. Wow.
I'm curious if it will affect. So if it's true that the spirit realm or whatever exists in the EMF field of Earth or in the ether or whatever, I wonder how 5G, those microwaves, will affect that.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely could not answer you that.
No, I know. We're speculating. I also want to bring up that Cliff High said in that interview on Leak Project, the LARP, by the way, that 5G is being rolled out to dampen the effects of mind control by the higher up dimension, whatever that is. Whatever he claims that we're being controlled by, those entities are using some kind of mind control, and the 5G he thinks may eliminate the hold that has. Dampen it, if you will. I thought it was an interesting take.
That is really interesting. Okay, you're going to have me researching forever now.
I'm sorry.
It is interesting in context to this, to what you do. And also, I think, as far as the idea of how everything, energy is electric, you know, and it's Cliff High threw a wrench in all of it. I was perceiving 5G as all negative, and I just went there with it. And then he throws in this wrench that possibly it could be protecting us. So but what you find, MJ, let us know, especially as you're in your future cases.
I'm definitely going to keep it in mind. Definitely. So, if I have any information to bring back to you guys, I will.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about this now.
I'm thinking now too, because I'm thinking, well, I wonder if it would dampen your abilities in any way or enhance them.
What I'm thinking. How will that affect sensitive people?
Yes.
Huh.
Are you ready for another crazy question?
Yes, throw it at me. Ooh.
Aliens, space aliens.
What about them?
What do you think about them?
Well, we can't be the only daft ones in this universe.
Okay, never mind.
And when you say aliens, it doesn't have to necessarily be space. This could be interdimensional, right? Absolutely. And you deal with that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't personally. I have never come across anything. Well, it's elementals, but they're usually born of Earth energy. They've never been human.
Yes.
I've never really come across anything that I would consider alien. I'd love to.
Yes.
I am totally, like, the moment I come across anyone from any other realm or any dimension or anything other than ours or what I am able to tap into on the other side, I am most certainly going to get them to sit their ass down because I have questions.
Yes.
I agree. I agree.
I love your perspective.
Unfortunately, they're reluctant at times.
Yeah,
I got one more question. Have you or anyone you know pick up a hitchhiker after an investigation?
Yes. Oh my God, they are the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Several occasions, actually. This comes down to not protecting yourself properly before an investigation.
Mm-hmm.
I am guilty of this myself. Oh my gosh, one of the worst. It's probably one of my scariest moments in all my years of doing this. I got called into this private case, and this woman had 3 teenagers in the house, 2 daughters and a son, and they were all experiencing some really bizarre things in the house. And they'd all seen this woman in a really tatty kind of worn hospital gown. The essential lunatic asylum crazy lady, you know, what you would picture that's pretty much how they pictured it. Well, put it to me. And they'd seen her in the house, they'd seen her around the outside of the house, they'd had all sorts of crazy experiences, and they wanted obviously everything to stop. There was a lot of fighting and a lot of bickering, and so my first thing was interesting. Okay, so you have 3 teenagers going through puberty in a house, all slamming doors, bickering, moaning, bitching at each other, which that is just a mixing pot for poltergeist activity. That is just, you are brewing your own entity right there with all that negativity and all those hormones and all that, so it's generally cases like that. I'm like, open and shut. This is kind of what we're dealing with. However, this case was a bit different. After doing my research on the property, I realized that the house was built on the grounds of an old insane asylum. And we had gone in, we'd done the cleansing. We actually picked up on this woman, this entity in the house. We did the cleansing, we put a protection up around the house, we did a blessing, we had crystals and things everywhere, we had all sorts, we had to protect it up to the gills. And I went home. Bear in mind, I live about 300 meters down the road. I walked back to my house. I didn't even have to drive. I just strolled down the road back to my house. And I got home and I felt dirty. Not so much, not particularly dirty, but like spiritually, I just felt like there was this sludge energy. It was horrible. So I took a really hot shower, got out of the shower, and I noticed my laptop was open on my desk, but it was off. And I caught a glimpse of this woman in the reflection of my laptop. And I thought, oh, crap.
Oh my.
She's followed me home. I felt something rush up towards me. Actually, that's my son's talking about this.
You're like the reflection queen here, getting all these reflections.
See, I know.
Yeah.
I love it. I've got that great photo as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I felt something rush up towards me, and then felt this really intense burning on my neck. And I went straight up to the mirror, pulled my hair aside, and had a full-on human bite mark on my neck. You could actually see each individual tooth mark. That was, which makes sense, because if you were, back in the day, if you were put in a mental institute, women were admitted into mental asylums for hysteria or for reading. There was a whole list of really random things that they were admitted for, but
witchery.
Yeah, absolutely. So they wouldn't have been, hysterical or whatever the case may be, but when they were restrained and no one was listening to them, eventually, over a period of weeks or months or whatever the case may be, of not getting your point across, you are going to become hysterical and frustrated. And then it was kind of, oh, look, they are crazy. And anytime they tried to restrain these people, women especially would try and bite you, but they would go for either the side of your hip area, your love handle, that was easy to get enough grip, or they would go for your neck. So it was unsurprising to me that I stepped out of the shower and had this woman who'd followed me home from this case bite me in the neck because of given her situation that, is what she would have done. And she was probably really pissed that I kicked her out of her space.
Oh wow.
Probably.
That's incredible.
That's probably the word.
Incredible. What about how do you view death and dead people? Like the process, what's going on, especially if you're here. I've been waiting. This is usually where I submit my last bit and we do questions. And I've been anticipating this from you in particular.
So what do I think of death and dead people?
Yeah, the process of dying, and then when we get there, what's going on with it? What is death, as opposed to what is here and now, what we're calling life and waking, this experience? What are the differences?
Damn. Wow, I'm gonna have to think about that a second because I can go really in depth with this. So I don't in a heaven and hell. I believe that, and this is from my experiences as a medium. This is kind of, I used to believe in heaven, hell, all the rest, everything, but when you develop your mediumship, that kind of all goes up in the air.
Yes, and this is why I've been anticipating your response.
Yeah, that definitely all just goes up in the air. I think that life is the most amazing adventure, and we are here to learn certain lessons that I think when you die, I think when you transition over, I think the afterlife, I think that's where it's at. Like, I'm really excited about dying. Just don't want to do it anytime soon. I think that you're in this life and you have these experiences and you are tested and you are put through so many different things, and it's how you handle it, how spiritually aware you are, and how you accept in this life that death is but the beginning. I think that once we cross over to the other side, there is sort of an in between. I feel as though there are those who have crossed over who will not accept that they are dead, which is why we have these hauntings and things. They don't want to go. Maybe they don't see the light or whatever it is on the other side. Not so sure on that either. But I feel as though there's an in between, and there is like another life, like another whole life. I feel it's a whole.
It's a nexus. It's a roundhouse.
Yeah.
You can go somewhere else from there. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like people ask me what the difference is between ghosts and spirits and haunting things. And the way I can break it down is what I believe a ghost is somebody who has that unfinished business, who has been murdered and is pissed off, or who died and still decided that they are too worried about their family that are left behind to go anywhere. That there's something that's tethering them to this life. And so they stick around that way. And then I feel there's people like my father or my brother. They're not bound to a location. They're not bound by anything. They're crossed over. They're in that like third section, the life, middle, end section. I believe they've crossed over to that. And they can come back and visit whenever they want to. They're not bound to anything, which is great. I don't know. All I know is it sounds really weird, but I'm really excited to die.
I'm with you. Well, Montana Jordan always says, "Yay, death." She's, there's no fear there, and I have no fear. Also, I'm just curious.
Oh, I've lost you again.
What the membrane is? Am I back?
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to what you feel the membrane is between, say, like, where's your consciousness? Where's your consciousness? This membrane between
what is the
here
veil?
and there. Yeah, what is the veil? Where is the veil? I think of it as a membrane. Like when we come through birth, you know, it feels the same. It's kind of the same experience to me.
I have no idea. I couldn't answer that. I'm sorry.
No problem.
We don't demand answers.
No, I know. I
Yet.
know.
Yet.
I'm thinking. It's strange to me. I feel like mediums and things have, obviously they've got the closer connection to the other side. Is it just that we are using, I don't know. I mean, even if you said you're using parts of your brain that others aren't training, or whatever the case may be, or that still doesn't answer how it's, like you say, the membrane, the
veil.
the veil, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm a medium.
That's honest. I love it.
You know, people ask me things, and even though I'm a medium, and if I don't have the answer, or if I can't wrap my brain around something, I'm gonna go, do you know what? I have no idea.
Yeah. Yes. And well, that's, I think, the best way to proceed with an answer as well.
So you'd mentioned the spirits seeing the light, missing the light, quote unquote. Have you ever been exposed to the whole false light phenomenon? People who talk that up, how it's actually a soul recycling trap.
I have never heard of that.
Okay, I don't want to send you down another rabbit hole.
Oh, no, do it.
I just did. And there it is. That the moon is some kind of control center, and it sends out this false light when you die. And if you go into it, you are put into like some kind of recycle, put back into another body immediately. You have no time to recoup, heal, whatever.
It's like a bug light that zaps you.
Yeah, that's what some people believe.
I'm just sitting here to get my mouth hanging open. I'm like, wow, I need to research this.
No, you don't need to research.
Of course I do.
Okay,
so
who talks about that? David Icke, I think, talks about it.
Well, it's all over. I'm not sure where it generated from.
Huh.
Have you dealt with so in the field you're in, and then being interested also, just coming in as a natural kind of witchy person, what about dealing with like Santeria and voodoo and hoodoo, this stuff?
You just stole my question. God damn.
Did I? I'm sorry, Jerry. Jeez. You've done that to me so many times, Jer.
Okay. So I don't have much experience with voodoo and that sort of thing. I know a bit about it. I don't profess to be, very well versed in voodoo rituals and that sort of thing. I definitely have come across some interesting things. I had a very strange thing happen, actually. We all know the voodoo queen Bloody Mary down in New Orleans. If you don't, Bloody Mary's fantastic. She's a really, really awesome writer as well, so I highly recommend reading some of her stuff. So I had this really weird thing happen. Usually when I go on investigations and there has been some form of witchcraft, whether it's, the light and fluffy Wiccan side of things, or whether it's a bit more in depth and a bit darker, whatever the case may be, if there's any form of craft or voodoo or Santeria or anything like that that's been performed in a location, I tend to see the symbols. I tend to see bits and pieces of the ritual. It's really weird, but I pick up all these flashes of things.
Energetic residue.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I went to this investigation, really small place, and I kept getting these flashes of these symbols, and I kept doodling them. And I kept
you summoned a demon. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, absolutely. Like trying to pronounce IKEA furniture names. Summon a demon doing that.
And he won't help put it together either.
Yeah, right. If only. So no, but I kept like scribbling this stuff down and trying to figure it out, and I was looking at these symbols, going, well, I mean, I know Wiccan things, symbology. I know sigils and things, and this doesn't resonate with me. Like, this doesn't look anything like that. This looks more voodoo, and I don't know enough about it. And I kept picking up that somebody was drawing the voodoo symbols and things everywhere in order to conjure spirits in this location, so that the location was active for paranormal investigators to keep hiring it, to keep coming back for more activity.
Oh, that's interesting.
So the more they would conjure in this place, the more active the place is, the more investigators would talk about it and be like, oh my God, that's a #1 location. All of a sudden, the price went through the roof. People were booking it midweek. It was booked constantly. Weekends, you had to wait forever to get in there. And they were charging a fortune. But this was just rolling out the cash. And it was due to the owners meddling in all things voodoo. But I didn't know it was voodoo at the time. I had my suspicions. I didn't know what it meant at all. And I went to New Orleans. I was on a tour there 3 years ago.
One of my favorite cities. I love
I know,
it so
me
much.
too. Oh my God, Lola
so good.
Smells like
completely stole my heart.
smells like
Yes.
piss and beer there.
It's great.
The streets.
It is fantastic.
I love it. So I went over to New Orleans. I was there for about 4 days before doing a paranormal cruise and everything out of there. And we had taken, because I was one of the speakers on the cruise, so we had taken a group of people on a voodoo tour with Bloody Mary, and we'd done a whole bunch of other things while we were there investigating and all of that. And we walked into Bloody Mary's house. I don't know if anyone's listening has watched the episode of Ghost Adventures where Zach and the guys investigate the voodoo queen Bloody Mary's house. It's a very interesting place. And so we walked into her house, and she closed the door behind the group. And this symbol that I had been drawing, trying to figure it out, was painted across the entire back of her door. The whole door had this entire thing painted all over it. And I was in shock. I literally just stood there staring at it. And I looked at it and I was like, what the hell is that? And she was ever so calm. She was like, well, that's Papa Legba. I'm like,
Oh, the
"What?
Veve for Legba, yeah.
Papa what?" And yeah, so it was his, what do you call it? Oh, I've just lost the word.
That's his Veve.
Yeah, he's Veve. So, and everyone was kind of like, what the hell are you going on about? And I was like, well, that's to open the gateway between the worlds. That's what it's for. And to, welcome Papa Legba in to help with that gateway, to bring people in. And it was just, it was weird, because that was the first time I'd ever had a run-in with anything to do with voodoo on a investigation. I mean, it's not very popular here. So we don't really have much of that. Witchcraft, on the other hand, we have that quite a bit.
Yeah. It's definitely, voodoo is definitely in hoodoo. Of course, we're the home of hoodoo. That I find this extremely significant, though. Doing more psychic work via, in this case, voodoo, brought on more psychic phenomena, which was in turn bringing in more sugared business, right?
Yeah.
That's compelling.
Yeah, they were using it to conjure things, to bring in more investigators. Everybody wants an active location to investigate, so
Right, but
Voodoo
it also
is powerful.
the thing I can't help but think about is how it's like a scam.
absolutely.
And
Yeah. I mean,
that's
to me,
don't-
I was like, how dare you?
yeah, and it's going to backfire on them eventually. So
Yeah,
that's cool with me. It reminds me of what's happened, I think, what's happened in the UFO community, where you've got actors, wherever they may be from, generating buzz about UFOs, and then this whole, the convention circuit came up around it, and
Mhm.
the lore, just all of that's been supplanted. It's I think it's a lot of fake history that's been built upon. So now it's a multi-million-dollar industry, much like
Absolutely.
paranormal. So that people are just getting in there. Yeah.
But isn't there something compelling about, say, so you can say it's a scam, but if there's actually psychic energy brought into the conversation
Yeah.
here with doing rituals, which is applying psychic energy to a space, right? And you overlaying even dreams on the sidewalk. So
I wasn't saying that it
there's
wasn't
something,
a hotspot
it's like unethical.
scam.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unethical. That's it. I mean, do you two? I mean, what about the poor sods they're conjuring?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
oh, stuck there.
Yeah. I agree. I do think, I mean, clearly they've made a business of it, sadly. And, I guess good for them on their parts. But for the rest of us that are investigating or curious, it is
Totally.
misleading.
Yeah, I totally feel that whatever they've brought in is really not nice.
Hmm.
So I think that's going to backfire very quickly. And I feel for the people that, we've gone back and we've investigated it since. And the place has a horrible feeling to it.
Oh my.
It used to be one of my favorite locations. And now I won't go back there because whatever they brought in is so negative. I don't want to chance that thing coming home with me or one of those
Well,
things.
yes. I mean, they must, what they're bringing in also. So if they're doing it
They don't know.
for financial gain, right? You're, of course, going to bring the lowest of the low. That is the lowest of the low energy.
Exactly. So there's, fortunately,
It's all those lower astral fuckers, isn't it?
yeah. That's quite a trend in the UK recently, actually. People conjuring things up to keep a place active.
I'm wondering now if God, you got me thinking about so many things right now. I'm curious if not. I'm not looking for an answer. It's just speculation. I wonder how common it is that people summon ETs or greys or reptilians or whatever, some thing, entity. And that could, I know that there's a lot of gray stuff in England. And that's what Nish referred to.
Huge hotspot for it.
Ireland too. All the UK.
Wales as well, yeah.
Yeah. And there's a group out there called the Basis Project, which have been investigating this for a while. And, they assert that the government has been in cahoots with these entities to doing whatever. I don't know what they're, whatever it is, they're together, working on together. So how does that work? if they're summoned things, But that, anyway.
Well, you know what? I mean, I wonder how much truth there is to it. And it makes me think of things like the spirit box. So the spirit box, the SB7, was created by Gary Gulker, and Chris Fleming had a really big part in working on that project. And it was Chris who communicated with spirits on the other side. And they told them how to build it, how it would work. But this is it. This is not the first time that I've heard of somebody speaking to entities on the other side, be it Grandma Joe or be it a Grey or whoever, or an elemental or whoever it is on the other side, but having an entity on the other side telling them how to build a piece of equipment.
Of technology.
Really, now that those words have just come out of my mouth, I've just remembered a really strange, bizarre dream that I had 2 days ago.
Lay it on us.
Unfold it. Yay.
Oh my gosh. I literally
I told you this was going to happen.
That is so bizarre. So I actually had a dream that wasn't very vivid for a change. It was I don't really remember much of it, which is very unusual for me. But I dreamt that somebody was telling me that I was going to start making my own equipment, and they would teach me how. can't make equipment. I know nothing about it. God, I can't even use a washing machine properly, let alone strip something and back together.
Oh, wow. Do you remember? So within this, do you remember who was telling you?
I don't.
And
I remember feeling as though there was a crowd of people, and one or two of them speaking out, saying, "We're going to teach you. We're going to teach you. You're going to make it step by step. You're going to build your own equipment."
oh, wow. This sounds like it could lead into a download, MJ.
Yeah, totally.
Ooh.
This
What's
idea.
this ooh? What's this ooh?
Oh, I'm just really hoping it does. That would be amazing. I can't draw a stick man, but hey, I've tattooed someone.
There you go.
So I'll give it my best shot.
You'd be surprised how easy it is to put together a radio or something small. I totally forgot my question.
I'm sorry, Jerry. I thought more was coming up.
It's the one I didn't write down.
It's always that way. Did you compile questions from the chat, or because you've been asking, so I don't know if they've been coming.
I have been weaving them in. I remember what I was going to say. Thank you, Suzanne, even though she didn't give me the answer. That experience of receiving technological documentation, instructions from the spirit realm is not uncommon, or not unheard of. I mean,
it's not. I've heard it from. I mean, in my years of working in this field, I've probably heard it from about 3 or 4 different people at least.
Allegedly, the Nazis were all into that. That's where they came up with some ideas for some of their technology. There was a group called the Thule Society, or Thule Society, that also channeled a group, and I think there's a woman named Maria Orsic. I think she was part of the Thule Society or another group. I'm not sure.
Maria Orsic was Vril.
Okay, she was the Vril Society, and the Vril channeled this group who claimed to have the secrets of this Vril energy, which is chi, prana, whatever you want to call it. They call it Vril energy. And then how to build technology. They wanted to help us build technology that used that. Yeah.
Very interesting. See, and again, so I don't count out aliens.
Yeah, we think it's wise to keep the table, to stay open-minded.
Absolutely.
Period.
Oh my gosh. I mean, just during my paranormal journey, like I said earlier, the first time I came across an elemental, thinking, what the hell's that? Like, things, you mean there are more than just like fluffy dogs and mom and dad on the other side? It blew my mind to think that there were these entities. There was like another race. It was like another. It's amazing to me, let alone grays or anything.
Well, if you talk to someone who has an animistic perspective, everything has consciousness and everything is sentient to a degree. Rocks, the ground.
Yeah.
Your boogers. Everything has a little bit of consciousness in it. Just you can't really interact with that.
I have seen some people interact with their boogers, so I don't know.
This is true, especially when driving.
Magical booger, what does they have to say?
So you had asked.
Oh, sorry, Jerry, go on.
No, you had asked her about the African question. That was my only other question. So.
I think that anyone that's out dealing with nature in general, especially those of us that grew up kind of close to nature, feel the connection to elemental energies.
Absolutely. And it's funny to me because it's anyone that I've ever come across who has a very natural pull to the craft. So people who, I've always worked with herbs and essential oils and all sorts to cure any ailments and all sorts of things. That's kind of my thing. It's more of a kitchen witch.
Right. The natural. You're natural. Yeah.
Very natural. And I've always found that anyone else that I've met who is sensitive, psychic, or anything that has a pull towards the craft tend to be more open and have a lot more experience with elementals. I mean, it's possibly because they're earth energy, so
yeah. I absolutely agree. It's funny to think about how demonized that whole idea. When I think of witches that I know, myself included, we're just deeply connected to the experience we're having, and that generally includes we're generally good cooks, we're generally artistic in some way, and we're working with the stuff at hand. It's like the magician in the tarot. We're working with the elements.
Absolutely. Completely agree.
And we do not need, there doesn't need to be a ceremonial high magician aspect. It's so separate from all that.
Yeah, definitely agree.
Give
with
me
that.
the folk any day. The folk ways any day.
Folk, yeah.
Folk,
I love
yeah.
that.
This has been an amazing conversation. MJ, I cannot believe how many electrical, what do you want to call it? Electrical elves.
Totally. This is an
Gremlins?
unprecedented amount from her tonight, from this. She usually ones or two, but this is like 10.
This was
good.
one of the wildest Nox Mente shows, especially since Jerry was, I guess, in an interview and people heard that. We knew
It wasn't an
going
interview,
in
it
you
was
were
a
gonna
work
pop
meeting.
out, a
It was
work thing.
a
Yeah.
work meeting, not an interview.
Yeah. No, we knew. MJ and I knew you were popping out
Yeah.
for that for 15.
I told
But
everyone
now
in
the
chat.
world knows, Jerry.
I told everyone in chat. I already admitted it.
So
Oh.
this has been really, really interesting. I've had a great time. It's been a good conversation.
Thank you. It's been
And
awesome
thanks
for
so
us too.
much for listening.
Yes, thank you, everyone. So you had asked about, or you had mentioned some new stuff you're working on that you wanted to talk about.
Oh my goodness.
This is that time.
Okay, plug.
Plug time.
Okay, so today I got asked to play a small part in a movie, which is very cool. I'm acting as a paranormal investigator. Ta-da! AKA, I'm acting as myself. It's fantastic.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, they just said be you, and you only have a few lines, but hey, look for ghosts. So I'm happy. I'm like, I can do that. So
Do we know the name of it, MJ?
Not yet, but it will. We start filming next month, so it's an indie film. So pretty sure as soon as I know more, it'll be all over social media, and I'll share it with
Okay,
everybody.
cool. Yes, cool.
I'm doing my usual investigations things. I do tend to join a lot of other groups and things on their investigations. But I've got Salem Con in Salem, Massachusetts. I'm going to be popping over across the pond to say hi to everybody over there. I've got so many really, really good friends in the paranormal industry. John Zaffis, Grant Wilson, Mark and Lauren who run Salem Con, Scott Grunwald, and everyone kind of is going to be there. So it's a great excuse for me to hop across the pond and see everybody. So anyone that wants to chat all things paranormal with me, come and say hi. I'll be there. On my side of the pond, I've got, it's not even my side of the pond. I'm lying. It's Europe. In May, I'm actually doing my second paranormal cruise through Europe.
Ooh, I like this.
Yeah.
And I put the link in the chat, and it's also in the show notes in our Discord. And I'm going to try and go too.
Oh, awesome. That would be amazing.
I know.
So when is that?
May?
The 8th to the 18th of May, 2019. We start with 3 days in Venice. And while we're in Venice, we investigate Poveglia Island. We also get locked in an old Venetian palace overnight to do an investigation. We've got a few ghosts and legends walking tours, and that sort of thing. And then from there, we board the MSC Lyrica, which is known as one of the haunted ships in the fleet. So, which is really, really cool because it's an actual haunted ship. That's amazing. And we do Bari, Italy, Saranda, Albania, Dubrovnik, Croatia. So any Game of Thrones fans out there, we actually do a Game of Thrones tour in King's Landing, all of that.
Croatia is amazing. I'm going to also try to get on this. This is really exciting.
Oh, I can definitely send you some info. Anyone that wants information can find it on our website, which is www.sageparanormal.co.uk.
And that link's in the show notes or in the video description.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And from we do 3 Greek islands of that as well. So it's 10 nights. It's really fun. This is the second time we're doing it. And gosh, what else? I've had my 3rd interview for a new paranormal TV show in the UK. So fingers crossed the network like me. It's show business. Who knows?
Show business is weird, but you're very charming and and beautiful and easy going. You have a good energy.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Yeah, I've been asked to be kind of the talking head resident expert on the show, to give my opinion on things, which I'm really happy to share my opinion. And they've also asked the lead investigator on a couple of episodes. Again, it's up to the network. I will know more information pretty soon. Fingers crossed that comes through, because I do enjoy doing TV work every now and again. I've recently helped on the production side with season 4 of Paranormal Lockdown when Nick and Katrina were over here in the UK. I helped them out just like the tiniest little bit on their show, which was super fun. So I'm looking at doing more television stuff, but more of the factual documentary stuff, not so much the oh my god #.
Yes, thankfully.
I think it's a hashtag everything is demons.
Yeah.
I got to send you a link to that show. It's pretty funny.
Oh,
That
So
was
you're
actually
quite busy.
yeah.
you know what, I've got between a lot of filming, I do a lot of production consulting and stuff. I also run my own convention. So most of my year is taken up putting that convention together. It is very small, very intimate, but it is one of the only paranormal conventions left in the UK. So, and I don't work with a team, it's just me. So in between working my regular day job, and then, which you asked about nature, I actually run a farm.
Oh, I love that. MJ, you just get better. Jeez, everything. Yes, yes,
I,
absolutely.
I run a farm fishery. There's log cabins. It's beautiful. I mean, just walking around the lakes and things is really, really stunning. So, I manage the place. I'm the office lady. I'm the one that answers the phone, does payroll, and those great things. Just
What a
people.
perfect environment, though. That's nature.
But
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's peaceful, it's beautiful. So in between doing my regular day job, I do all the consulting, the production work, the filming different little projects, the convention, the crew. I am currently putting together a trip to New Orleans. It's a 10-day voodoo tour. It's all things paranormal and voodoo. I've just started putting it together. This is kind of my trial run for that tour, and it's pretty much sold out already. So, fingers crossed everything goes well, and that'll become a regular feature as well.
Okay,
So,
fantastic.
yeah, I really enjoy doing sort of paranormal holidays and that sort of thing. I do several kind of getaways and that sort of thing. So, I mean, if anyone wants to ever join me on some crazy paranormal adventure, you can find me on Facebook.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
Me too. Hashtag me too.
I'll go anywhere you want to go.
Hashtag me too paranormal.
Yes. Well, that could mean something else though.
Well, I was making a pun on it, but
What,
it's
like-
still too bad that the New Orleans one is filled up. It's so close to Jerry and I, really. Jerry even
Hashtag
closer.
rape ghost.
Well, I could possibly squeeze you guys in. It's a very small group going.
Oh, get to us behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Hold that
definitely.
thought until I close the show.
Yeah, I know. Here we go. All right. I just want to say my thank yous to anyone listening and the wonderful chat that we always have, which I'm not in. And I feel grateful that you've come on, MJ. This was a wonderful experience.
Yes, thank you
This
very
was
much.
so fun. Thank you so much. I've had a great time. And thank you so much to everybody listening. I appreciate you guys tuning in and support. It's great. And not only for the show, but for me, listening to me ramble. Fantastic.
Yeah, you're an awesome rambler. Anyway, thank you everyone for listening tonight. It's a reminder we're not on next week. It's Christmas kind of thing. So we're going to take a break. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with, I forget who it was. I think it's Grimsteak. I think Grimsteak's our guest. So Steve. Yeah.
Yay.
So,
I'll try and tune in for that. That'd be awesome.
We also, if you don't know, put out a podcast of the show on an RSS feed. So if you have a podcast player, you can find us on iTunes or Google Play or wherever. So thank you everyone so much. Have a great night. I just said now.
Hey.
And we'll see you.
Jerry did it.
We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Take care.